looked at the photograph in order to refresh your recollection. Could you see in that perspective shot where the blood drop was in relationship to the corner of the building?
Somewhat, yes.
In other words, could you see the placement of the drop, the
Yes.
relative position of the drop?
Yes.
Right. And was it viewing that caused you to refresh your recollection as to that drop?
Sustained.
What was it that caused your recollection to become refreshed as to that drop when you saw the photograph?
The fact that it was the first drop on the trail and it's positioned right in the front at the corner of the house.
All right. Now, going back to the blood vial for a second, was it your belief when you testified at the Griffin hearing that you had left shortly after 5 o'clock?
Yes,
And why did you believe that?
because that is the time that I thought we had left. It did not seem that a long period of time had gone by.
When did you discover that that was not the case?
When Mr. Fung told me to write down that he had received the blood vial and the time.
Now, on either the 13th or the 14th, did you ever have any reason to believe that the issues relating to when and where and how that blood vial and its packaging was recovered would be important?
No,
Or that there would be any kinds of allegations of wrongdoing in connection with the blood vial by the defense or by...
no.
Now, with respect to item number 15 and 16, when did you put those items on the crime scene identification checklist?
I believe it was the next day on the 14th.
Maybe I can see, I think it's defense 1107. While they're getting that, I also wanted to take another look at a portion of People's 186, the scene showing Ms. Mazzola placing stuff, the items in the back of the LAPD crime scene truck.
Is this the one with the time code on it?
Yes.
How many times do you think it's necessary for us to see that?
I don't know. It seems to come up over and over again. Well, I'm only going to see a little snippet of it, Your Honor.
Do you have it queued up?
Maybe we could fast forward a little bit, just up to the point where they put the items in the back of the truck. Okay, let's just go a little bit further. Okay, let's stop for a second. Now, can you see your hands and Mr. Fung's hands in this frame 17/11/57/28?
I could see Mr. Fung's hands and one of mine, yes.
Okay, let's go a little bit further. Just take a look at your hands and Mr. Fung's hands. We don't have to go in slow motion. Okay, that's fine. Thank you. Now, were either you or Mr. Fung carrying anything back into the Rockingham location when you left the crime scene truck after you had placed the kits and also the items of evidence in the rear of the truck?
No,
So did you have your crime scene identification checklist?
no,
Did you have anything at that time that you could use to fill out and record the locations of item number 15 and 16?
no,
Did you have any of your coin envelopes with you or any packaging materials with you at that time?
no,
Okay. Well, Ms. Mazzola, you say that you didn't have your crime scene identification checklist or any coin envelopes. Could have you hidden your crime scene identification checklist and the coin envelopes in your sock?
Sustained.
Well, did you hide them somewhere on your person so that you could produce them later on when you got back to Rockingham?
Overruled.
No,
Did you see Mr. Fung doing that?
no.
All right. Now, I'd like to take a look at Defense 1107. Maybe we can see 15 and 16 a little bit better at the bottom. Okay, that's fine. Now, on 15 and 16, did you write down any measurements as to where the items were actually located?
No,
Did you have your measuring tape with you at the time?
no.
With respect to the other items that were collected at Rockingham that are contained on this list, maybe we can just take a look at item number 1. Starting with number 1, that's the stain that was contained on the Bronco,
Correct.
and even for that, you have some measurements.
Yes.
Do you have measurements for the other items that are contained on this list, including A, B, and C, A and B, which were not collected?
Correct.
So the only ones that you don't have measurements for are 15 and 16.
Correct.
And why is that?
We didn't have our measuring tape with us.
So when did you place the notations as to where those items were located?
When we placed the items themselves on the identification checklist.
Okay, thank you. Now, you said when you were walking out with the plastic bag that it appeared that the weight was concentrated in a part of the bag. What did you mean by that part of your testimony? I think she did.
Sustained.
Do you recall testifying in substance that the weight was concentrated in one part of the bag?
Sustained.
Was the weight concentrated in one part of the bag?
It appeared to be heavier in one area.
Okay, what do you mean by that?
Well, if it was item 15, 16, and the photo ID cards, they really didn't weigh that much, and the weight I felt tended to be in one area rather than spread out over the whole bag.
Now, with respect to the photo ID cards at the Rockingham location, is it your general practice that after the items are collected, the stains, the card would be lifted up?
Yes,
Do you recall seeing a segment of videotape that showed Mr. Fung lifting up some cards in what appears to be the afternoon?
yes.
Do you know whether those were cards A, B, and C?
I don't know for sure which ones they were now.
Do you know for sure whether all the cards were down in the afternoon?
I don't know.
May I just have one moment, Your Honor?
Certainly.
Show one more photograph.
Can we see it, please?
Well, I think it's already in evidence.
I'm sorry, I can't.
Which number is this, Mr. Goldberg?
48A. I direct your attention to 48A for identification. Does that depict photo ID number 112, item number 48?
Yes, it does.
And is this the perspective shot that you were referring to?
Yes.
Thank you. I have nothing further.
No further questions.
Thank you. All right, Ms. Mazzola, I'm going to ask you to collect the items before you, return them to Mrs. Robertson, the clerk. You are now excused as a witness, however, you were subject to recall. All right? All right, counsel, given the time that we've expended today before the jury, I think we're going to call it quits for today. All right, I do have a few matters I want to take up with counsel, though, before we leave. All right, ladies and gentlemen of the jury, thank you very much. Please remember all of my admonitions to you. Do not discuss the case amongst yourselves, form any opinions about the case. Don't conduct any deliberations till the matter has been submitted to you. Do not allow anybody to communicate with you with regards to the case. And have a pleasant weekend. I think I mentioned to you that we have other commitments tomorrow, counsel and myself. We will not be in session as far as witnesses are concerned. Tomorrow we'll start again promptly Monday morning, 9 o'clock, and we're going to have a full week of testimony next week. So I'll see you next week. All right, have a pleasant weekend. Enjoy the outings. All right. And Ms. Mazzola, you may step down. And would you take those items, please, over to Mrs. Robertson? Let me ask counsel, I understand that we're going to have Mr. Matheson as our next witness. All right, are we going to need any of these items for him tomorrow?
Do I need any of these for him tomorrow?
Correct.
I mean Monday?
Excuse me, Monday.
Okay, I'm sorry. I don't need them. I don't think I need them.
Mr., who is going to be doing, Mr. Blaze, are you doing the cross-examinations to Mr. Matheson?
I am, Your Honor.
All right, do you anticipate need of these for cross-examination?
I don't at this time, but I would request that the prosecution have available photographs of those items in case we do need at least photographs to refer to.
Yes, she is so ordered. And they are in a sealed condition now, Mrs. Robertson? All right. Mr. Goldberg, did you hear Mr. Blazer's comment regarding the availability of photographs as to these items?
I'm sorry.
Did you hear Mr. Blazer's request regarding the availability of photographs of these items?
Well, I think we probably have photographs of all of these items, because they were sent out to the defense in Albany, and photographs were taken at those times, so they should have all of them. I do not know if we have photographs of the bindles of all of those items.
We certainly won't need them Monday. I understand Mr. Goldberg is going to take at least a day for Mr. Matheson.
All right, well, whoever needs the photographs ought to have them here. I mean, do you have a set of photographs, Mr. Blazer?
We can check to see if we have. I'm not sure we have all of each individual item.
There are sets of photographs, and
It's my
it takes
understanding.
some going through to find them, but I think they're all there.
Okay. All right, we had one other item regarding the EAP issues on the demonstration board for Mr. Matheson. Do you want to, let's take that up now.
Well, Your Honor, I don't know whether the court had a chance to read our letter brief that we filed.
When did that get filed?
I think it was just today.
Well, in case you hadn't noticed, I've been busy.
I know, Your Honor, that's why I assume that the court probably would have had an opportunity.
No, I have not seen it.
There-
All right, I'll read it. All right, are there any other issues that we can resolve?
Is the court going to read it before we have any further argument on that?
If you want me to read it, I'll read it.
I'd appreciate it.
Okay, I'll read it.
I would like to respond to it. I can do that in writing over the weekend if you like.
How about tomorrow, by tomorrow morning? You can fax it to me. All right.
I'll do that.
But there were also some other,
I have a session regarding this case tomorrow morning at 9 o'clock, so I'll be here.
there were also some other issues regarding EAP that I wanted to raise, and I didn't have an opportunity before the close of yesterday's session.
All right, well, let me ask counsel to be here then on Monday at 8:30.
Do you not want any argument tomorrow, however? I mean, I'll be here.
No, why don't you file your documents? I've got the reason we're not going to be in session is because I've got other things, other cases, other things to
Okay.
do tomorrow. But if you'll file whatever you want, then I'll consider it over the weekend, do any research that I need to do.
I know when we talked about this last time, the court suggested that you wanted to hear Mr. Matheson testify outside the presence of a jury in a 402 hearing. Not yesterday, time before that. I don't know whether the court still desires that. It's somewhat of an involved issue in that I think once the court understands the technology and the scientific issues, that the legal issue will become absolutely crystal clear. And perhaps the court would want that testimony first, because I don't know whether I've adequately explained what our position is and why it is that we feel we're entitled to prevail.
Well, as I've indicated to you, I'll read your letter brief, I'll read the cases that you cite, I'll read the response from Mr. Blazier, and then we'll see where we are. All right, at 8:30 on Monday. All right, Mr. Scheck, anything else on the EAP issue? All right, Mr. Scheck.
A brief request, Your Honor, that I think will save us all time in the long run, and I think is something of basic fairness. I understand that they've changed the order of the witnesses now, because we had anticipated Mr. Yamuchi, now we'll have Mr. Matheson. And I've been further informed that the prosecution intends to then start with DNA witnesses. And we've been given a lead time of 3 days. Problem is that the DNA evidence is so voluminous. As of 10 days ago, we got a 200-page handwritten set of notes from DOJ, and I must confess, I haven't read them yet. What we would request is that we be given more advance notice. We want to know which labs are coming first, so we can be preparing this weekend, because if we get that kind of advance notice, then it will go faster. Frankly, given the voluminous data, the continuing results that are coming in, we don't want to be in a position where we would have to turn to the court and ask for some extra time. That would be the last thing we'd want to do, because I want to go home. So I think it would expedite everything if we could have, just as far as the DNA issues, because it's so dense, that we get more advance notice with respect to which set of tests and witnesses are coming first.
Refresh my recollection as to what our specific agreement was regarding prior notices to the witnesses. Was it the next?
Yeah, at least 3 days of witnesses. And what's happened has been changed, they've changed the order.
Well, I advised them that I changed the order of witnesses on Thursday of last week,
Well,
and that I expected Mr. Matheson to be.
All right, but
we don't wanna
who do you,
fight.
well, let me just ask, who do you, so I can also get prepared myself. Who do you anticipate for our DNA witnesses? Have you set an order yet? Mr. Clark?
Yes, Your Honor. I believe the first witness will be Dr. Cotton from Cellmark, who will testify to the results in the series of reports that Cellmark has already issued.
All right, who do you anticipate after that?
Then the Department of Justice.
All right, who do you anticipate coming from the DOJ?
At this point, it would appear...
I take it California DOJ.
Correct.
All right.
Gary Sims as well as Renee Montgomery.
All right, who do you anticipate after that?
Mr. Yamauchi, most likely.
All right,
the only other thing that we would indicate that the previous order of witnesses had included the nurse, Mr. Paradas, and Mr. Yamauchi, which we regard as chain of custody witnesses and foundational witnesses with respect to the blood, particularly the blood vial, which is obviously of greatest interest to the defense. They must have some...
it would seem to make some logical sense, yeah, you're right.
Yes, so we obviously would request and maybe they can brief it if they want, but we think that certainly the nurse's testimony should come in before they start introducing the test results.
Well, as to the nurse's testimony, Mr. Van Adder testified already that he saw the blood being drawn and that he dropped it off to Dennis Funk. There is no further foundation. Even if the court were to require us to put it on in some particular order, there is no further foundation that's necessary.
Well, the issue here is not, first of all, is notice to the defense as to who's coming. Mr. Clark, my guess is that you've just given us 2 to 3 weeks worth of witnesses.
That depends on cross-examination.
They told us that the chain of custody witnesses were going to take a week. That's what we were told.
I have one concern about the last remark of Mr. Goldberg's, which is that it's our position, as it has been all along, no surprise that we have been challenging the chain of custody, and we are challenging that there's not a proper foundation, which is for some of these DNA test results to come in. And I think you yourself said, even in your ruling, that no matter what the ruling was on the Kelly Fry issues, that the people still have to lay the proper foundation before any witness can testify to results. And I don't believe it's just a New York rule, Your Honor. I'm sure it's a California rule and a rule in every jurisdiction in this country. As a matter of foundation, you introduce the blood into evidence before you can have anybody testify to what the results are about the blood. You introduce the narcotics into evidence before a technician can testify to the results.
Counsel, the issue hasn't been presented to me yet. I don't have to rule on it. The issue here is Mr. Scheck asked who's coming next. He knows. You can take whatever action you feel is appropriate in light of that information.
Okay, just so that the people are on notice, we will object to any testimony about results, for instance, results of a DNA profile or a conventional serological profile attributed to Mr. Simpson, until the blood is introduced in evidence. And the same will apply to swatches allegedly sent to these laboratories by, what was it? Or any other swatches or anything else, that at least the person who collected it, it has to be introduced.
Fine. Well, you're tipping off what your objections are going to be, and we'll see what happens when we get there.
Okay.
All right.
One final thing, Your Honor. The people filed a brief today also about, there was no statement of facts, but the subject matter was introducing police reports in lieu of having witnesses testify as business records.
Something to do with lab reports. Yes, I saw that.
Yeah, and we're very concerned about what it is they intend to introduce that way. We will have certain objections, and we would appreciate some sort of an offer as to what it is they intend to introduce this way so that we can make the appropriate objections.
All right. Mr. Goldberg, that was your handiwork, citing your own handiwork.
I had my able assistant put that together for me. Your Honor, what we're going to do is we're going to put on every piece of evidence and every test result from a single witness in LAPD. And we're not going to call any other witnesses. I guess humor isn't very rude, doesn't seem to be receptive on it. I don't know. It's a humorless group of people, I guess.
Mirthless.
What?
Mirthless. Yes. All right. Okay.
I'm sorry. No, what we do plan on doing is we plan on putting certain chain of custody evidence up through Mr. Matheson that would normally require some other witnesses to be called. But essentially what he's going to be testifying to is that items are packaged up and mailed out based on business records, and that's what we're supposed to.
All right.
This doesn't refer to test results.
Okay.
We will object to that, and we'll file something in writing by Monday.
All right. All right. Anybody interested in the 980 hearing? I'll see you tomorrow. Otherwise, have a nice weekend.
Very good.